Alright guys, Tuesday back in the garage, and we're just starting to work on fixing up this mid pipe. So we're going to do a little cleanup here. We're going to break these welds, go back in and regrind the material so we can get a nice weld there. Going to finish grinding off these old mounts that are not required. I don't know if you've noticed, but I've pinned these so I can put them back in the right position, and I'll just weld up this hole after when I'm done. So, and I've also got my location marked out for where my bung is going to go for my AFR gauge. So we'll drill that out and we'll weld the bung in there, scratch it all down, and then I've got some high heat paint over there warming up by the heater. So I'll give it a couple of coats of high heat paint followed by maybe a little application of heat from a heat gun to get it to set a little bit. It's awfully cold out in the garage today, so anyway, let's get to work, and we'll break these welds first and then grind up that area to get good weld there. Alright, so we've got the bung location drilled in the collector, and we've got the areas where we're going to be welding all cleaned up. We've gone ahead and scratched these pipes down because we know we're going to be getting a coat of paint, so we've just scratched them down with 80 grit on the DA, so those are ready to go. We'll probably just scratch this up with a red Scotch-Brite or maroon Scotch-Brite before we do the whole painting of this mid-pipe section. So let's go ahead and start welding something. Alright, I think we're ready to weld our bung in. So I've got that area cleaned up. What I'll do is I'll tack it, and then we'll put the sensor in and make sure we're in good alignment before we weld it up fully. So I've got my welder turned up as high as it'll go, this little Easy MIG 140, and we'll see if this will do the trick. I chamfered the bottom a little bit so it would fit in the contour of the exhaust a little bit better. Right there. So see if we can tack it here. We'll do one more tack on the other side, and then we'll check the sensor to make sure it fits. I think that's going to be okay. Alright, we've got a good fit on the sensor, so we'll go ahead and weld this up the best we can. That looks okay. Should do the trick. Alright, let's move on to the exhaust pipes. Alright, onto the exhaust pipes now. So we've got our pin inserted, so we know we're lined up here. So we're going to go ahead and weld this up fully. Made sure that I could get the other pipe on even with this pipe welded in place, so I thought I would check that before, because that would be a bit of a disaster if I had to actually have the other pipe on before this pipe went on. So made sure that that wasn't the case. So we'll go ahead and we'll weld this one solid, and then we'll weld that one solid. It's going to be a little bit tricky on the inside, but we'll make the best of it that we can. Alright guys, pipes are now welded. We're just going to do a little bit of a cleanup. There was where the drill hole was, the pilot hole, to keep these things aligned. So we're in good shape. So we'll clean these up a bit and get them ready for paint. Alright guys, pipes are all welded up and cleaned up. Just scrubbed down a little bit with a red Scotch-Brite. And we'll just grease and wax remover them, and then we're going to hit them with the high temperature VHT paint. And then we've got the heat gun out. We'll heat cure that a little bit to help it along, and we'll be ready to go back on the car at some point when it's ready. Alright guys, Thursday, January 7th, and we're just out checking on my mid-pipe paint project. So that's looking pretty good. It's dried up pretty well. I did purchase a blanking plug if I ever want to remove the sensor, and you shouldn't be running the car without the sensor if it's not hooked up. So that's why I bought this blanking plug. We'll just probably run that if I'm not running the gauge. So that's ready to go, so we can move on to something else. Just to let you know that I did actually drop the header off yesterday at a place called Fireball Coatings, and I'm getting it coated at a cost of $275, which is fairly expensive. That wasn't the most expensive option. So I went with a matte silver. So the matte silver is probably going to be fairly closely matched to the color of this VHT paint that I painted this collector and mid pipe. So that should work out okay. I was going to go with just a, I was actually going to go with a gloss silver or a polished silver, but that was more expensive, and it was going to have some issues with the, they weren't going to be able to polish in between the tight pipes of the header, so it was going to look a little bit grainy, so I decided against that. Then I thought, well, I'll just go with basic black. Basic black was $250, so it was a little bit cheaper, but I thought, what the heck, let's just go for the matte silver finish. So that's what we've done. I've got a week turnaround on that, so I'll be picking that up next Wednesday. So in the meantime, we need to figure out something else to do on the car, because we definitely want to install that exhaust back on the car before we put the body on. So I think what I'll do tonight is I do have some, I don't know if you remember, I was talking about having to attach the fuel and brake pipes to the chassis frame, and I wanted to do that when the exhaust was off, just to get a little bit more clearance. So you can see the pipes here. So those need a couple of rivet clips. I've got 2 rivet clips to go on there. And originally I was going to rivet them on. One of my viewers, Steve Denton, and if you don't watch Steve's channel, you should check him out. Steve's a fellow Triumph aficionado and has got one from the dark side in his collection as well. But we're going to probably use some self-tapping screws as suggested by Steve, as opposed to the rivets. Just in case I ever want to remove those brake pipes, it'll be easier to remove a self-tapping screw versus a rivet. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Got a few on my table over there ready to go. Just got to find the clips. So we'll get that little project out of the way, and then we'll find something else to do. So there are the pipe clips that I'm going to install this evening, and there's the part number. This is from the Roadster factory, so it looks like 149765 is the part number. So these are specifically, I believe, for the TR250. These hold 2 lines, so it'll hold the brake line and the fuel line. The later cars also have an emission line, so I think there's ones that actually have 3 little slots. But anyway, these ones have 2 just to hold the 2 lines, so we'll go ahead and we'll install those now. Like I mentioned, we're just going to go with some self-tapping screws, so I've got some here, 1 extra, so we'll just go ahead and use those, and we'll get that installed, and those pipes will be then fastened to the chassis. While we're there, we've got a new fuel filter installed, and we're just about to get ready to clamp that up. We're going to install our soft line to the hard line, so we'll do that when we affix the clips as well. Alright guys, another little job done. So I know it's going to be hard to see there, but there's 1 clamp there, and there's 1 clamp here installed. Let me see if I can get a little bit better light on that. So there's the clamp there with the fuel line and brake line secured, and that runs nicely to the front of the car. And at the back of the car, here is where the connection will be to hook up to the tank. So we'll put a soft line on there, and that'll sweep up towards the tank. So we're in good shape there. So another little job checked off the list, and ready for the body to be put on the car once the exhaust comes back. Alright, so I've gone pretty much as far as I can go on the chassis, I think, until that exhaust comes back from the ceramic coating next week. There's not a lot more I can do on this. So I'm at a little bit of a crossroads on the project. So as you know, the body tub needs to have the engine bay repainted. I don't want to do any body work or sanding, etc. with the chassis in the garage. So the chassis needs to go out to the trailer. Having said that, it's not as easy as just saying this needs to go out into the trailer. So as you've probably noticed when the garage door was open, we've had a bit of snow, and it's been actually quite cold here the last few days, and the driveway is fairly icy and somewhat snow covered. So to move the trailer over even to the right side of the garage with my truck is a little bit treacherous. My truck's only two-wheel drive, and it'll be difficult for me to back the trailer up even to get to this garage door to be able to pull the chassis in. So I'm going to probably have to borrow Les and his four-wheel drive truck to give me a hand moving the trailer over to this side of the garage, and then eventually helping me push or pull this chassis into the trailer. So that's probably going to be a few days before I can get this out of the garage. So in the meantime, while I'm waiting to move the chassis out into the trailer, I've been thinking about what I want to do for the next few days. Since it's, like I mentioned, it'll probably be until the weekend until Les can give me a hand. So I've been looking at those black and yellow bins over there, knowing that there are certain components in there that need to be refinished or restored in order to move forward on this project fairly quickly in the future once the body tub goes on. I think I pretty much have everything that I need as far as the engine bay is concerned. Brake master, brake booster and clutch master are already done. New washer bottle on the way. The wiper mechanisms are ready to go, wiper motors ready to go, headlight buckets are ready to go, etc., etc. Wiring harness is ready to go. So as far as the engine bay is concerned, I think I'm pretty well ready to go on the engine bay assembly. Now, passenger component wise, there are some components I know need to be refinished. So specifically, I'm thinking about the heater box. The heater box I took apart and painted, but I haven't reassembled that, and I know that's in those bins over there. So what I might do in the next day or two is go through the bins and start pulling parts out that I'm going to need as far as engine bay assembly and as far as passenger compartment assembly, just to pull those out of the bins and to get them ready to go once we do mate the two together. So I think that's what the plan will be for tomorrow and maybe the next day until we can actually get this chassis moved out into the safety of the trailer. So stay tuned. So there's the project update for Thursday, the 7th of January. And we'll probably see you back out here tomorrow. Oh, the next few videos are probably going to be just me searching through bins and pulling out parts.